Are you ready? Better luck next time. It's showtime. Level shots. It's showtime. Are you ready? Double shot. Yes! Are you ready? It's showtime. Power shot. It's showtime. Power shot. All right. Are you ready? Wide shot. Are you ready? Are you ready? Wide shot. Oh no. It's showtime. Oh no. It's showtime. Wide shot. Double shot. Power shot. All right. It's showtime. It's showtime. Double shot.